right, Ryan Aho here with the One to Go show, and hey, we're Puka-less, man. There's no Puka this week. He's a quitter, not even a year into the show, and he's not here. So Puka, I don't know. Nobody likes quitters, right? But he's going to be back. He's going to kind of dip in, dip out. He's still got a lot going on with the show. Just not here tonight. Got a lot going on, and of course we got Bert Lehman. Bert, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm still on tour out here. I'm out in South Dakota right now, so I'm in my South Dakota One to Go show office over at my buddy Josh's place here. So I'm going to be here for a few more days. I got to dress warm, and then I am heading all the way to Ashland, Wisconsin, and the weather does not look real good. I can tell you that. It looks like it's going to be really cold. But before we get into the show, you know, this show, of course, brought to you by our friends over at Weir's Machine. And, you know, check them guys out. You know, get a hold of Chad, get a hold of the crew. They got a huge staff over there in Wisconsin. You know, they've been servicing especially dirt track racing, but all forms of racing. They've been basically servicing for a long time. You name it. They got brackets, J-bars, bird cages. You name it, they have it. They make it. They build great products. We talked about it on a couple shows. They have some tools and some things that really make life easier that I wish I had when I was racing. I'm a little bit jealous, but you know, the fact of the matter is, you know, this is a time of year where people are starting to kind of get rolling, you know, their thought process, you know, what are we going to do for next year? What are we going to stock up on for parts? Are we going to make some changes? And keep an eye on those guys, because the folks over at Weir's Machine, they're always innovative, right? They're trying to take things that are already pretty good, enhancing those products, making them better. You know, so just check them guys out, and they can make just about anything over there. So check out weirsmachine.com. So I think we'll start out, you know, my buddy Keith, he was super excited about sprint car racing, right? Because they had 5 straight nights, and I know neither one of us are huge sprint car fans, but we are dirt track fans, and there's been some really good racing. Did you get a chance to watch any of the sprint car races here over the past week?
No, I was a little busy last week, so I didn't really get to watch much sprint car racing. I did see the finish of one of the races, though, where Larson lost by about, a half a car length. And we discussed this on the show previous to this, but what amazes me was I didn't think he had a chance at all on that last lap, and he just drove his sprint car into the corner 3 and 4 so hard. But he couldn't get enough traction to take the lead, but to even be as close as he did really surprised me at the end.
Yeah, you know, it's like they find another gear. It's kind of like you watch, you know, the old Fast and the Furious movies where they're cranking, they're racing, and all of a sudden the movie clip comes off and we're going to give it one more gear. It's like, I thought these guys were supposed to be brave. Shouldn't they be giving it every single lap? How come they're so much faster on the last lap? I don't really get that. But Keith, Kyle Larson, I think he forgot how to win, right? I mean, he's kind of been winless here for a while. I'm not sure what his deal is. David Gravel nipped him. I think Larson started 10th in that deal, $52,000 to win. They called it the governor's reign. Now, a couple notes on that is the track was terrible. It was like a gravel pit out there. I mean, it was just the racing to me wasn't very good. It was dusty. And Bert, I don't know about you, but Eldora, I think they must have the record for fanless races, you know, because they got basically every special they were going to have. They still had it, but they had it without fans. Man, they've always said, if you want to become a millionaire in racing, start with $2 million. Well, fortunately, Tony started with a whole lot more than that, because I can't see any way possible that those events paid for themselves. I mean, because $52,000 to win with no fans, I may not be the smartest guy around, but I can do math a little bit, and that just does not add up.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I mean, it's nice that they're at least getting these specials in so we can watch them online, but they sure can't be money makers for the track. I mean, because Eldora, you know, I've been there several times, and that's, you know, usually attendance is like 20,000 for their big events, and so you consider, you know, admission for 20,000 people, concessions, and all of that, and yeah, it
lemonades, right?
It can't be good on the track's pocketbook this year. So hopefully this is the only year where they have to do that.
Yeah, no kidding. So transitioning, then we're of course all-star sprint car races. That was on, I believe, Tuesday and Wednesday. They had those. Then they had 3 nights of racing, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, for the World of Outlaws. And, that point battle was really tight coming in. But Brad Sweet has extended the gap. He now has a 40-point lead. And looking at that, one thing that excited me, because, we're in the Wissota region, the upper Midwest, Donnie Schatz finally got a win, right? Schatz won. Actually, he kind of got lucky because Hodenchild led that. Sheldon Hodenchild, he was leading that deal, broke a shock. Now, I want to talk a little bit about Hodenchild because he broke leading the first night. I think he went in, came back out. The second night, he won at what would be his home track. He won over at Wayne County Speedway in Ohio. So they said that was a big one for him to get that underway, to win at home. But then he went the next night. He went on Saturday, and he had a huge lead, 6-second lead, 2 laps to go. It was over. It was kind of like almost like the Strickler deal, right? Like he was gone. Boom! Right rear tire explodes, and David Gravel got his second win in the week there. So Hodenchild legitimately had a shot to win all 3 nights. 2 nights had mechanical failures. So keep an eye on him. I think he's 5th in points. Could he be the next big thing? Could he be the guy that kind of rolls in and maybe comes out in 2021 and has a huge season with the World of Outlaws?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice. I mean, the Sprint Car Outlaws, they definitely have the closest point battles of all the national series. And I mean, and if you can add more drivers to that close point battle, all the better for the series. Yeah,
and actually Schatz kind of gained a little bit on Schuhart because Schuhart is 40 out of first and Schatz, I guess, is 98. So he's only 58 points behind out of second place. So, I think that looking here, there is 10 races remaining in the point season for the World of Outlaws. That's a lot of time. It's going to be tough to gain 100 points and pass up first place, but he can legitimately, with a good weekend coming up here, he can roll into that top 2. And this weekend, they're actually going to Williams Grove, which is one of the meccas of sprint car racing. I think this is their biggest race of the year. $10,000 to win on Friday, $75,000 to win on Saturday. So,
oh wow,
yeah. So they're going to have a huge car count. And could Kyle Larson maybe get back in the winner's circle? I mean, he's got to be due. It seems like every time big money's on the line, right there, it's hard to pick against him. Who's your pick for that one?
Well, you just said it's hard to pick against Kyle Larson.
I'm gonna though. You can. I'll let you have Kyle Larson.
If there's 75,000 on the line, I'll go with Larson.
You know who I'm gonna go with? I'm gonna go with Sheldon Hodenchild. I think after coming off a weekend, he was extremely fast. It's hard to bet against Kyle Larson, but I'm gonna say Sheldon Hodenchild is gonna get his first huge win and take home $75,000 from Williams Grove. So now let's get into late models because we do like them better than sprint cars, right? So did you watch any of the traveling series, the national series for the, Lucas Oil World of Outlaws? Maybe we'll start with the Lucas Oil. They were at Brownstown for a couple nights there. What did you see there, Bert?
I watched both features, the Friday night feature and the Saturday night feature. Josh Richards was class of the field on Friday night. Him and Ricky Thornton Jr. put on an epic battle, racing side by side for much of the end of that race. That was fun to watch. But one of the things that I remember from, not the Friday night show, but the Saturday night show was Richards and Mike Marlar got together, and Richards didn't get the good end of that. I mean, there wasn't really any damage to his car, but he was the one who spun out. He came to the stop, so then he had to go to the back. Marlar got to keep his spot back, but it looked like that's kind of a weird track. He got pushed up and they kind of spun, and Marlar kept going, and Josh Richards spun around and came to a stop. So, but Saturday night, once again, big winner was T-Mac. he's putting together another nice winning streak. You know, I was reading Dirt on Dirt last week, I think it was, after he got the big victory, and it was like, you know, he's had a stretch of bad luck. Well, not necessarily bad luck, but bad finishes in the middle of the season. But I mean, do you consider him for driver of the year? You know, even with the string of bad finishes, he's put together a resume of some pretty nice wins.
And we're going to talk about that a little bit at the end of the show. I got a few little stats there, because when the money's on the line, he's been delivering. He's been on the big money shows. He's been in the hunt every single time.
Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, you can't rule him out for a driver of the year selection.
For sure. Now, getting back to that deal with Marlar and Richards, you know, we're going to have a dirt track supply is going to bring you make the call, right? So I played the video clip here for you fans. You can kind of watch it. You decide what you think. Myself, Richards looks like he gets up into him, like he kind of squeezes him. But Marlar, to me, and you guys make the call on this, it looked like he turned to the left and drove through the right rear of Richards, trying to dump him into the fence. So, you know, I don't know if they hooked, but his car went from on the wall all the way down here, and Richards went that way. So, you know, that's where I hate that rule. The whole deal, whoever stops goes to the back. I think that's just a bunch of BS. I think whoever causes a deal, and that's questionable, because Richards squeezed him, but Marlar finished that deal off. So that was definitely, I guess, the most interesting thing that happened at the Lucas Oil stuff. And this week, they have it's 12 grand to win in Ohio, and then they got the Pittsburgher 100 for 20 grand to win. So there's really only a handful of shows left in the Lucas Oil. Jimmy Owens driving away. I think T-Mac rolled into second in points now. Did he pass Davenport?
I'm not sure. I didn't look at the point standings.
They're second and third, I think. I guess we'll have to look at that. I should have that in front of me. I know who's first by a long shot. I mean, that ain't even disputable. But the fact is, he's been solid all year long. But T-Mac, if not for that middle part of the year, he could have been in a hunt for this deal for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree.
So now we'll go to the world of outlaw late models. And the big news on that one is somebody that we've been talking about. Like, is this guy ever going to win a race again? Like, and I talked about it on the show last week. I'm like, I'm pretty sure November comes around, he's going to go cherry pick a win like he did last year. But how about it, Team Zero, Scott Bloomquist finally getting in victory lane? Did you see that coming?
I did not see that coming. He started on the front row and led up every lap. He was challenged at the end, though. I mean, you know, it's not like he just walked away from it. He was challenged at the end. Before I get into the action on the track, though, I want the track. Did you watch that? That is a
but I couldn't see through all the dust, you know. So
that is a dirty track. Holy smokes!
You know, if fans, they complain about some of the tracks that we go to. We're racers. That's what we do. That place sucks. What was it? Thunder Mountain? Is that what it was?
Thunder Mountain. Yep.
That place is terrible. I mean, I've never seen. I mean, I'm lying. I've seen stuff that dusty, but not on a national scene. I mean, that one right there. It's like. I think that's where the pay-per-view stuff can actually hurt racing, because people jump on there and they look at that and they're like, I'll never go to that place. That place sucks. If they can't have a good show on a big night like this, I can't imagine what that place is like on a regular night. So, but yeah, it was an absolute dust bowl. It was crazy.
Well, and the thing that was surprising, because they raced there 2 nights in a row, so I thought, okay, maybe something, you know, track prep didn't go right the first night, but the second night was the exact same thing. And it's like, okay, that must be the way the track is then. But yeah, watching it online, you couldn't even see the cars in 3 and 4. I mean, 1 and 2 wasn't as bad, but 3 and 4 was complete flying dirt and dust. So that was one thing that surprised me. I did also watch the interview that they did with Bloomquist after the race, and he said a few well, first of all, you know, they showed him getting out of the car, and he is showing his age.
He's going to be one of them guys where they kind of have the top of the door flips over, so it's easier for him to get out. I mean, yeah, he does not look like a young, nimble Scott Bloomquist anymore. It's like, all right, time for I always say that late models is kind of like the retirement class. he's showing that.
But in his interview, he did say that, because he had hip replacement surgery, and he said that, there have been times when he has no feeling in his foot and his leg, and sometimes his foot will slide off the gas pedal and he doesn't even notice it because he can't feel it. So, I mean, we've given him some crap on this show because he hasn't won, but, he is dealing with, it can't be easy coming off, hip replacement and racing as soon as he did. But, I mean, it's good for the sport to see him in victory lane. I mean, whether you like him or you don't like him, it's good for the sport. I mean, you don't want to see him just kind of keep racing but not have any wins and just kind of fade away out of everybody's memory. I mean, you want him to, I mean, he causes some controversy, and that's not necessarily bad for the sport.
Oh, he does not, ever. No. And there's no such thing as an interesting conversation with Bloomquist because he never says anything interesting.
But did you take notice of the Mason Ziegler versus Younghans incident?
I did not.
Oh.
Fill us in on that. I'll see if I can find the tape. See if I can get some footage of that.
Yeah, because it was, I believe it was, I'm trying to picture the way it happened. Younghans, I believe, did a slider on Ziegler coming out at 2. And, I mean, Ziegler had to really let up. Otherwise, there would have been a wreck there. But going down the backstretch into turn 3, Ziegler went in alongside of him and wasn't afraid to use the side of his car and kind of pushed him. And Ziegler's or Younghans spun out, and another car hit Younghans, and so
Ziegler's
yeah,
up on the wheel. That guy is flat out aggressive. He's one of those guys that I love to watch, but I would hate to race against for sure.
So this one, unfortunately, this incident involved some other cars, where the Marlar and Richards incident only involved those 2 cars. So, it wasn't good to see other cars involved and damaged. But when I saw that happen, I'm watching it, and it's like, Ziegler's not going to let up. He's not going to let up. And nope, he used his body and pushed them. And that's a case, too, where, Ziegler got his spot back. And, Younghans, I'm sure had enough damage to his car that he couldn't continue on. But also, I mean, it's strong showings by the local drivers there too, especially Jared Miley. He was running good in the first race, and the second race was his. I mean, he had that race won, and white flag. I mean, he was on the back stretch already, I think, when the caution came out on the last lap, but they go back a lap, I guess, on a, I know on eastern side.
What was the yellow for? I tried to watch that. Was there a guy?
I don't know what
I'm
the yellow
thinking maybe there was
for.
a tear off or something like that. Like, a regular World of Outlaw guy going to win. Let's have a do-over here so that we can get our guy in victory lane. Because it wasn't a wreck. The track wasn't blocked. I mean, it was no big deal. In my opinion, he got screwed. Now, he screwed up. I mean, the video showed that.
Yeah.
He dipped off the top of the track, but it's one of those deals. He's going, into 2, coming down the back straightaway, yellow flag comes out. Stay green unless it's something that's an actual issue. And I don't believe that it really justified throwing a yellow there. It would have been great to see a local guy get a World of Outlaw win. I think he kind of got hosed on that deal, and I hate that. I mean, if the yellow comes out on the last lap, it better be something blocking the track, or it better be something to where there's a safety issue. Don't just throw the yellow because somebody stopped off to the side. That's just stupid.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I mean, in eastern Wisconsin, the rules that most tracks have here is if the white flag comes out and then the yellow comes out, then the race is over. But World of Outlaw, their rule must be you're going to finish the race under green. And so, yeah, but like I said, I mean, I think he was on the backstretch when the yellow came out on the final lap. And but, yeah, you're right. On the restart, he boned up and and pushed
all over his wiener is what he did. Yes.
And I mean, that's you know, a sign of inexperience on the big stage. He
Nerves.
probably won't do that again.
You get B-Shep behind you with a green-white checkered finish, leading a World of Outlaw race. Man, if you ain't won a couple big ones, your heart, it's like having buck fever, right? Minnesota, deer hunting seasons, it's like you're shaking like that. I've been there, done that. So I mean, I get it, but I mean, at the end of the day, that race was his. He should have won. There should have never been a green-white checkered in that deal. You know, and I think didn't B-Shep get second the first and second night? So I mean, he's still cruising with that Rocket One car.
Oh yeah, I mean,
but you know, that's the thing with the World of Outlaws. You know, if you watch enough World of Outlaw late model racing, I think it's like they're like the king of competition yellows, right? Like, oh, there's a tear off yellow. I mean, it happened in Superior. You know, you had Cedar and Pocasts running second and third. Looked like they were solid in the second and third. A guy pulls off the track. He's literally off the track into the pits, and boom, the yellow comes out for no apparent reason to bunch it back up so the Outlaw guys can be in position to get up into the podium. And I just hate that, you know. So I think that's pretty common, probably more common with the World of Outlaw late models than any other series. They bring their own officials, and yeah, I think that's a homer call on that one.
I was going to say, I think Puka has a theory on that.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. Yeah, the World of Outlaws, proudly sponsored by Rocket Chassis and Mark Richards. Yes, I think they call it the Mark Richards Outlaws, right? So, yeah, it's a tough deal. I mean, I hate it for that kid. You know, how old is that guy, Jared Miley? Is he a young guy? Or
I don't know how old he is.
Yeah, that would have been a big win for him. I mean, that would have been huge, and he got that taken away. Now there's only 7 points races left. That's all that's left. And looking at this, you have here's what's interesting. You got obviously Brandon Shepherd, just like Owens and the Lucas. Brandon Shepherd's like in his own stratosphere. Then you have Ricky Weiss. Then you have Cade Dillard. But if you look at the winnings, Dillard actually has earned more than Ricky Weiss. He has over $20,000 more in earnings with the World of Outlaws than Ricky Weiss, and he's third instead of second. So I think maybe, you know, that money's kind of nice, but you know, that just shows you can be the high guy in points or second guy in points in this case, and maybe be out earned, because I think Dillard's I think he's run pretty well. I think he's had a couple too many DNFs though.
Right. Well, and on the earning side of it, that's where winning a $30,000 show can really help with that figure.
That does not hurt at all. Yes, where did he win that one? That was at Lernerville?
It was in Pennsylvania, wasn't it, somewhere?
Yeah, I think
it was Lernerville.
Firecracker, yeah. I think. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. So yeah, this weekend here, the World of Outlaws, of course, they are going to be. I'm taking a look here. You have where the World of Outlaws are going. I believe they got a couple shows here this week.
You said Williams Grove? Or no, that's the sprint cars. Never mind.
That's the sprint cars. I got it right here. So the World of Outlaw late models, they're going to Gaffney, South Carolina, and then they're going to the 411. Both of them are going to be 10,000 wins. So just your regular World of Outlaw shows. And, you know, so they're heading down south. It'll be kind of interesting to see. You know, it's kind of nice when they go down there. A lot of their local guys are open late models, right? So they should be able to fill the field in pretty good with that one, I would think.
Right.
Yep. So that brings us over to, let's leave there. Let's go to Cedar Lake. Okay. Now, did you get a chance to watch Cedar Lake? I got a chance to watch a couple of the features over there, and you know what's interesting? They had the Fall Frenzy. Of course, they had the Legendary 100 last week. That was a 3-day show. This week, they actually paid more to win, and they had less cars. I found that kind of interesting. You know, so that was kind of a head scratcher. So race car drivers, if you're listening or you're watching this, you got to quit whining about money and then not showing up. You guys make no sense to me, right? Like, oh, we want more money. Okay, they paid more money and less of you went. There was a couple more late models, but the other classes, way less people went. Yeah, there was more stuff going on. You know, they had the Jamboree down at Deer Creek. Jim Falls right up the road had a race, but, you know, that just goes to show it's not always about money. And who did you pick? Didn't you pick Giassi to win. Is that who you picked?
I may have. I don't remember doing picks, but yeah, I think I did pick. I might have picked Giassi to win.
I know I picked Glenn's. That was my pick. I was all X factored up there, and them guys got second and third. And your Eastern Wisconsin guy AJ Demo, there's a guy that's ran well all year there. He put a beat down on them guys. I mean, he was gone. That 58
yeah, I mean,
was checked out. And Glenn's Giassi, they had a hell of a race there for a second. They were racing with Dorr, and they had a really good battle there. But if AJ Demo would have pulled off, it would have been a really good race for the lead.
Yeah, I mean, AJ at the drop of the green flag, he started in the second row, I believe, and he put a move where he split the two cars that started on the front row and took the lead right away and never looked back. But yeah, Glenn's and Giassi had a heck of a battle throughout that race, and as they're battling, Giassi moved ahead of Glenn's, and they both got past Pat Dorr. So Giassi was in second, Glenn's was in third. I'm thinking, okay, Giassi's gonna finally finish ahead of Glenn's because Glenn's has finished ahead of him so many times this year there. And then on the last lap, I don't know what happened because they were focused on Demo. I didn't think Glenn's was even close to Giassi, but somehow Glenn's got around Giassi to finish second in that race.
I didn't see it either. I don't really know how that happened, but both of them up in the top three again. All three of those guys, of course, heading up to Ashland this weekend. We'll talk about that in a minute. But, you get away from the late models for just a minute, and we get back to the modifieds and super stocks. The Iron Man, Shane Sabraski, doubles up again. Okay.
So where's he at now?
He's at 42 on the year, and I think he has to pretty much sweep out because Cedar Lake didn't race the second day. They rained out. So he's got and unless he runs a Midwest mod, Randy Loggy's been having him drive his car every once in a while. Loggy drove the car, had a hell of a race up there in the Easy One. So they had a really good battle there. But he's got this weekend, he's going to go to the Red Clay, and he'll get to run 2 features there. He's going to go to I believe the Fall Classic, the Can-Am Clash, and then he's going to go to the Topless. So I'm looking at it. There's 8 races left. The odds of him hitting 50 is not very good. Now, if anybody can do it, it's him. But, man, he's at 42. And, when he kind of didn't quite get her done there in Superior starting on the front row, that kind of ruined his chances. But still a hell of a year. We'll keep everybody in tune. That 7A car absolutely bolted. Looking forward to seeing him this weekend up in Ashland. So, again, I guess the thing I got out of Cedar Lake, they had a 3-day show the week before with the Legendary, and a lot of the fans and people that get there on Wednesday, so they kind of hang out all day Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then the very next week, right, then they had another 2-day show. It was supposed to be. It ended up being 1 day because of the weather, and it's just crazy to me that there was less cars. I don't know what the fan count was like, but I heard that was down compared to the Legendary as well. So quite interesting there, but it didn't go all night long, and so that's a good thing. They didn't have 9 classes at that one. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, you're talking about attendance. I was granted watching it online. You can't see how many people are on the front stretch, but that the seating on the back stretch was almost completely empty from what I could see. And, as I was watching it, I'm thinking, that should have been the weekend for the Punky Manor. And how the stands are jam-packed in Menominee for the Punky Manor. So I'm thinking, if this was in Menominee, the place would be packed. But, I mean, for Cedar Lake, is it just a case of too many big races being scheduled there?
Back-to-back's tough, right? A couple, 2, 3, 4 weeks away is different. But when you try to have a couple big races back-to-back, that's tough to do. I mean, and I get it. They tried it. They wanted to try to make something happen. But as soon as Jim Falls decided they were going to race, they should have just said, you know what, we're out. And, I guess it is what it is. Hopefully they didn't lose money, because these shows aren't exactly cheap to put on. But I guess it is what it is. There was still some good racing. I watched online on Dirt Race Central.
Oh, yeah.
There was some good racing to be had there. There's really not many races left. So I guess, you got to have it. Now, I was actually out west. I went out to the Casino Speedway this week, and first thing I did when I got to town is visited my friends right here at Dirt Track Supply, got myself a hat, right? And I went over, visited Ron, visited Trevor. I did a Facebook Live, kind of walked through their shop, and then one of them tire machines that I'm talking about where you can sipe your tires, takes like 8 minutes instead of an hour to do a right front. They got one of those there, so drivers can actually purchase tires directly from Dirt Track Supply, already pre-siped, right? Which is so cool. It's like half these things that are coming back, it's like I feel like I want to get back into a race car again because I wouldn't have to do quite as much work. But, you know, I visited with those guys, and you know, if you need parts, right? I mean, there's not a lot of racing left out west, but they can ship parts. Of course, you know, got the season coming up. You know, winter time is the time to get ready for next year. Check those guys out in Watertown, South Dakota. You know, dirttracksupply.com. Get a hold of Ron, get a hold of Trevor. If you call, you're going to get a hold of Trevor. Ron's the guy most of the time. He's in the fab shop. They're always busy working on stuff. They do everything. They have parts. I think they service 6 racetracks over there. So they have 2 parts trucks. They have multiple tracks. They build aero chassis. They do a lot of repairables. I looked at the room, the fab room. They had front bumper jigs for about every car imaginable. So it doesn't matter what kind of car you have. They can build bumpers, sidebars, you know, you name it. They can do all that stuff there. So give them guys a call, Dirt Track Supply over in Watertown, South Dakota. Now, to get to the racing, I had a blast. I want to thank them guys, the good family over at the Casino Speedway, because when I told them I was coming, they were like, hey, you should jump up in the booth and announce the car. It'd be great. And I did, and we had a hell of a good time. We kind of bantered back and forth. It was a lot of fun. You know, I got to see a lot of people that I haven't seen in a long time. And, you know, we'll get into the late models last, but the guy that's kind of been talked about all year long there in the mods, because I'm a mod guy, right? I like the mods. Sorry, Bert, but just the way it is. The one TPO, Tyler Peterson, yeah, he put on a show. Tyler Peterson was fun to watch. I mean, he won the first night, put a beat down on him. But that second night, he broke in the heat, got up into the fence, broke something. I think he broke actually before he hit the wall. Had to start 23rd in the feature. Now, a couple things happened here. The modifieds ran last, and it actually took rubber at the end of the late model feature, about halfway through. There was some good racing. We'll get into that in a second. But it actually took rubber. And I'm going, oh, man, the mod feature is going to suck. I'm thinking, well, one race left. They went out and farmed the track. And I'm so glad they did. Most places won't do that. You know, it was already a little late, you know, and most places would be like, you know what, there's one race left. It is what it is. They're going to race on what we have. But it would have been 40 laps of pure train racing, one-lane rubber. Nobody wants to see that. You might as well just give everybody a paycheck and leave. The Casino Speedway went out and they said, we're going to farm it. And they tried to get through it pretty quick. It really didn't take that long to farm the whole track. It's just a quarter-mile bull ring. And it was a little dirty about the first 4 or 5 laps. But then it was wide and racy. You could run all over. Tyler Peterson came from 23rd. He was up to battling for the top 3, almost into second. He jumped the cushion a couple too many times, ended up 5th. But he charged to the front. Everybody's kind of running the middle of the bottom, and he's like banging it off the wall. I mean, it was exciting to watch. He put a hell of a show on. And Brent Dutenhofer, he got it done the second day. He's a local guy from out there in Watertown. A buddy of mine, Matt Gilbertson, he got a pair of seconds. I think he started 6th the second day, but the first day he started 11th, right on the bottom, and drove right to second. So the mod racing was just like it's been all year long. I mean, they could run the cushion, they could run the bottom. They were slide jobbing. They were up on the wheel. It was a hell of a lot of fun to watch. And now jumping in the Midwest mods, you know, that feature, Scott Hansen won the second day, but the end of that race, I mean, it was slide job, crossover, slide job. I mean, first and second were slide jobbing back and forth. Third and fourth were slide jobbing back and forth. I mean, it was awesome. So hats off to the crew over there, but we're going to get into the late models. Now, before I do, did you get a chance to watch any of the stuff from Casino Speedway?
Yeah, I watched late model features. I watched some of the limited late model features. I mean, actually, on Saturday night,
my eyes still hurt from that. Right?
Actually, Friday night I was watching, and then the limiteds came out, and there's a caution after caution after caution, and then I stopped watching. And then Saturday night, I was watching again, and what do they have? Street stocks there. That was a pretty good race, the feature. And then, you know, the limited late models came out again, and it was just caution after caution again. And actually, at that point, I switched over to flow racing to watch the features of that 141 Speedway, which is in eastern Wisconsin, and I know those drivers. I mean, I'm not one to rip on the limited late model division, but I mean, there was definitely a lot of cautions. One of them, I think it was car number 85, really hit the wall really hard in turn 1.
Yeah,
that was a pretty bad one.
Yeah, he got up into the fence hard. And then there was another incident down in 3 and 4 where it was actually on a restart, and the second place guy got, he kind of tried to time it, and he timed it wrong, and everybody piled up, and they got hooked, and they were there for like.
Yeah, that's when I switched.
it felt like it was like 6 hours. I think it must have been like 20 minutes. I'm like, what in the world? And it was kind of funny because that guy has just a short fuse, a little bit of a short fuse, and they're like, do not announce who this call's going on, right? We'll just wait. Because they felt like if they're all hooked together and we call it on this guy, this might be mayhem. So it all worked out because his car was broke, and so it is what it is. But yeah, they were a little bit nervous to announce that while he was sitting down there because I guess he's a little hot-headed. I'm like, it's kind of funny. But yeah, the limited late models, they took forever. But DJ Tesh, I raced against him back in the mod. He was a class of the field. Interesting, coming into the weekend, the third annual Autumn Classic, there was a different winner every single night that there's been the limited late models at that track. There was no repeat winners ever. And DJ Tesh finished off the season by winning the last 3. So on Friday night, he became the first repeat winner. On Saturday night, he made it 3 in a row. And he was a track champion over there, and he drove.
Yeah.
He looked really good, actually. I mean, he's very patient. The one night he drove around the top and drove away. The second night he got the lead on the top, went to the bottom, drove away. So his car was very well balanced, and it was kind of fun to watch him. He did a great job.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that you say that he was the track champion because just watching him race, I could tell that he was a class of the field. I mean, he wasn't afraid to run it up on the cushion to get around drivers while everybody else was hugging the bottom. So
right.
I could definitely tell just by watching his driving style that he was a class of the field.
Yeah, and in the B mods, there's a couple of young guys coming up. The Nickel boys, Mikey Nichols was good. I mean, he looked really good the first night when he drove to the front. The second night, he just started too far back and just kind of got bottled up, but he was chucking some sliders, and I think he might have got third in that deal, but he looked really good. In the street stocks, their track champion there, Maria Brooksick, and she's like, I don't want to be known as the girl racer. So, sorry, your name is Maria. You're a girl. You are the girl racer. It is what it is. But she was the fastest car on the track both days. Absolutely, by far, the fastest car on the track. Both days, though, she got together somehow with the leader. I think the first day it was a little bit of a questionable call. She got put to the back, battling for the lead. The second day, that place at Watertown, if you run in the bottom, you got to about park it on the bottom to kind of hit that traction coming off. I've talked about that on the show. You want to make sure that you hit the traction, right? You're searching for traction. And the leader, Kyle Dykoff, who won the race, was doing exactly that. He knew if he overdrove getting in, he'd slide up the racetrack, miss it, and she'd just drive right by him on the bottom. So he'd come in and he'd about stop in the corner, and she got into him and sent him around in turn 2. And 2 nights in a row battling for the lead, she got put to the back. I'm like, so that was a tough break for her. But the late models, okay, so Friday night, Scott Ward, Becker, who'd been tough all year long, started on the front row. Scott Ward drove by him and made him look like a limited late model. I mean, he just put a thumping on him, right? And I talked to him beforehand. He says, I'm winning both. Flat out. Like, I talked to him. I interviewed him before the races. He goes, I'm winning both. Like, you can just write that down. I'm winning both. Like, Scott's not very laid back. He'll just tell you how it is, right? And so he went out there. Now, he won the second day too, but he got a gift packaged up, ribbon on it, nice little bow when the yellow came out because his daughter drove by him on the bottom. He was railing on the high side, and the crowd was on their feet because if you've ever been to the Casino Speedway, it's quarter mile, the grandstands are small, there's not a lot of rows, and it's like intense. There's a lot of Ward fans. He's that guy that's polarizing where they love you or they hate you. But if you're from Watertown, there's not really anybody that doesn't have an opinion on Scott Ward, right? But he gets a lot of cheers. The crowd, there's a lot of Ward fans. And he was railing the top, and the lane, I guess about a lane off the bottom, started to take rubber. And here comes Morgan Ward. She drove into second, and she drove right by him for the lead. Her lap times were quicker because she was in the rubber, he was on the cushion. And then the yellow came out. They had to go back a lap. He got the lead. Boom, he moved on the rubber, race over. She got second. But Morgan, I tell you, she's another gun. 2 chicks over there that are good race car drivers. And she actually, I asked her in Ricky Lane, I'm like, why did you not chuck a slider on Dad? And she's like, I was thinking about it, she said. But I don't remember what happened. She got together with somebody on a restart, not her fault. She got tied into something, and she was, what number? Oh, yeah, 57 Williamson. Yeah. So her and Williamson got together, and next thing you know, her tires were like this. So not only did she get second, she got second with about 6 inches of toe out, right? So she adapted well. And, yeah, we'll talk about the first night. Tyler McDonald, that was my pick coming into the weekend. I picked Tyler McDonald to win that. He's been good. He's been solid. 6 wins on the year. He's a rookie. And he went out there the first night, and he couldn't get her done in the heat race. He just struggled to really get anything going. And so he had to start towards the back of the feature, and it reminded me of Days of Thunder. All right, Colt, now I want you to go back out there and hit the pace car. Hit the pace car. Yeah, hit the pace car. And that was him. Like, literally everything he got next to, he was rough. I mean, it is what it is. We've all had those nights, but I think he was more driving. I don't know if it was foggy and he couldn't see. He was driving by feel. I'm not really sure what was going on there. His eyes were closed. I'm not really sure. But needless to say, he about yard sailed Trevor Anderson into the fence coming off 4. And a lap or 2 later, he just absolutely destroyed Ryan Engel's car. I mean, he went to throw a slider on him.
Is that the one car?
It was the one car.
Yep.
It wasn't even close. It was not even close. I mean, I can see hitting somebody in the left front or in the nose, but his quarter panel drilled him right in the door, and it sent him up into the fence. And I wasn't sure how bad the car is. That thing's junk. It ripped the whole rear end out of the car, and I mean, he was. Yeah,
he hit hard.
Yeah, and there was some words after it. Evidently, people weren't happy, and all that. But he didn't even come back the next day. He's like, well, I already hit everybody the first day, so I don't need to come back. I already got my job done. I'm like, here's the deal. He's in the top 10 of the power rankings, has a bad night. Outs like a 12-year-old, doesn't come back. Come on. You're up there for a doubleheader to race. You got fans there. You got people that watch you. You got sponsors. You got all this stuff. You had a bad night. You felt sorry for yourself. It is what it is. You decided to go home. Come on. Grow. I'm going to be honest with you. That's my rant of the day is when you go out there and you drive like a jackass, own up to it, take your lumps, go apologize to the guy. Okay? Because here's the deal. I don't know Tyler McDonald. I heard he's a super nice, quiet kid. But I do know this, that Ryan Engels was not happy. And Trevor Anderson was not happy. Now, everybody gets into people. It is what it is. But the fact of the matter is, if you're going to yard sale somebody and you did it, own it and say, look, I apologize. And sounds to me like I ain't willing to apologize. It's a racing deal. I ain't willing to apologize. I'm telling you, ain't always going to be at the track with Daddy. All right? And these are big boys here. So if you are going to be yard sailing people and you're not going to be willing to apologize, you best be willing to take your lumps. And for these drivers that race against him, it may not be in the car because they know that he don't pay for it, right? So I'm just saying, all right? So I was a little disappointed with the fact that they did not come back for day 2 because kid's a hell of a race car driver. He's good. But he had a horrible night on Friday. The best thing he could have did is come back on Saturday, went up after people cooled down, said, look, hey, man, I screwed up. I messed up. It was a bad deal. I apologize. It is what, you got to do that. You have to apologize. I mean, you can be a polite asshole. That's what, when things go bad, you can go and apologize and then come back and redeem yourself and put a show on because now he's done for the year. And you don't want to end your season like that. You don't want to go all winter with that messing around in your head that, man, last time I was on the track, I drove into everybody. And then all they think about is the last time I raced against him, the guy was a douche. And how about ending it on a good note? I mean, that's my thoughts on the whole deal. And you got to see that. What was your thoughts on that deal?
Well, I mean, I agree with you on that incident with the number 1 car. I mean, yeah, it wasn't even close to being a successful slider. I mean, that was almost, a side body to side body. And yeah, he just pushed him right into the wall, and the other car got up on two wheels, and yeah, it was a hard hit. That was a bad
I have
deal.
thrown a slider like that back in the day. I might have done something like that too. It is what it is. But again, I didn't like stay home the next day. I mean, I have driven through people. I have. I mean, anybody that's raced against me knows I've done that. It is what it is. But I didn't stay home the next day. See, I just don't get that. It's like, what goes through a person's mind where they're just like, well, I give up. I don't want to play anymore. I don't know. Is that the generation? I mean, he's pretty young. Is that kind of what that is?
Yeah, I don't know. I hope that's not the generation, but
no, I think he's married to Whitney Ward. I'm gonna look over here to I got my South Dakota council here, right? He's in South Dakota, so he's married to Whitney Ward, who's Morgan Ward's sister, which is Scott Ward's daughter. And from what I understand, and he can nod over here, but I think it's true, is she kind of gives him signals and all that. When he did that, she was going like this, like. She's like, what the hell was that? Sitting on top of the trailer, kind of going like, really? That's how we're gonna drive now? So I don't think Mama was happy on that one either. So, but yeah, I mean, again, everybody has bad nights. It is what it is. But you gotta own it. You gotta pick up the pieces and move on. Don't be that guy. That's just me. But overall. I still call it this, and I called it last week this. I think Casino Speedway is like the Fairbury of Wissota. There's not another track in Wissota that waters their racetrack. Like, I was out on the track, they had this weird, I don't know, like chemical type deal, 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen that they used to prepare the racetrack. And water. I think water. They did it both nights. The track started out a little greasy. By the end of the night, you had a cushion on the top. You had some food on the bottom. Second night, it was really windy, so it did get a little drier. But the fact is, they water the track. And the minute the races were over on Friday night, they're out there and they're digging that whole track up and watering it. They're back out there at 6 in the morning. They put moisture on that racetrack. And it's a quarter mile. It's elbows up. You're banging the cushion, slide job, running the bottom. I tell you what, they work their tails off over there to put on a good show. I love that place. And the fact of the matter is this, is they want to put on good racing. They want it to be side by side. They want multiple grooves. And you just don't have that. A lot of our tracks, I mean, I'm so sick of seeing tracks dry in race 1. That track was not dry in race 1. And even at the end of the night, like I said, when they had an opportunity to just say, you know what, it's the last race of the year. It is what it is. It's rubbered up. We're not going to farm it for one race. They said, no. The fans came here. The drivers came here. We're going to give them something to race on. We're going to give the fans something to watch. So A+ there to the folks at the Casino Speedway.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I hadn't seen races there before. I watched them this last weekend, and it's a cool little racy place. I mean, you can race down low, you can race up high. Coming into this year, I wasn't real familiar with Scott Ward, but now I understand why he's in the upper half of our power rankings every week, because that guy can drive a race car. And I didn't know anything about Morgan Ward, and she really impressed me. How long has she been racing a late model?
First year in a late model, I believe. Yeah, she's a rookie.
Wow.
So again, there we go, right? South Dakota, late model breeding, right? You got her, you got Tyler McDonald, and you had Cole Searing, Cole, I know you're watching. Sally, bring your purse back where you got it. You're a Sally. Oh, I don't want to go to Watertown. The place too hard on cars. Oh, seriously? Come on. Sally, right? You go race all these big, boring, we're going to get you a ticket in a NASCAR. He's a hell of a race car driver. He probably would have been in contention to win both days. I mean, he's that good. But I texted him. I'm like, dude, I'm disappointed. Like, I'm a little pissed off at you that you ain't there. But 3 rookies they had great years over there. And I think that bodes well for late model racing in the state of Wisconsin or state of South Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that 3 rookies over there, and all 3 of them have been really fun to watch. And I picked on Scott because Scott's a hothead. They call him the wild child. He's another one of me. He's a hothead. And when I first interviewed him, I said, man, she's doing pretty good. Yeah, she is. I said, in fact, she's doing so good. You actually got to watch her in the feature the first night in Grand Forks. He goes, yeah, don't remind me, because he didn't make the show when she did. And then he's been knowing a time or two to yard sale his helmet, steering wheel. I may have done that time or two also. And after the feature, he got out and he tossed his helmet up in the air. It landed on the concrete. I'm like, dude, I've never seen you throw your helmet when you're happy. And I'm like, them things are expensive. I hope you don't wear it again. But yeah, the awards are good. And he checkers or records. It's like he's either in the top two or doesn't finish. He had lots of mechanical issues this year. And if he could just figure that out, boy, he'd probably be the guy to beat every night over there.
Well, you forgot to mention the NASCAR burnout that he did too.
Yes. He's a crowd pleaser. Again, he's that guy that he's fun to watch. Again, I've raced against him. I guess I never had a problem with him, but he's not he drives hard. But back in the day, he was a little bit more aggressive, and he was pretty patient right away in the beginning of that feature. And he kind of felt it out, and then he was gone. But yeah, he's a good race car. There's a lot of good race car drivers actually in all the classes out there, and South Dakota's got some things going on.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it was really good racing there. I have no complaints about the show they put on there.
Now, I do have some complaints about the next show we're going to talk about, which was just a little bit north. Okay, I don't want to mention any names, but that track over in Jamestown. There's a couple. See, I'm going to start with this. Okay. Josh Skorcheski. Seriously? Really? I hope it was worth it. You made the trip. He's from Aberdeen. He's like, I guess it was kind of a horse apiece, a little further maybe to go one way than the other. But he's got fan base in South Dakota. And we kind of picked on him a little bit. It's like, why are you not going to casino? And another guy he's a Huron guy, big half mile, strung out, doesn't like being too close. I think he wants a social distance. I'm not really sure. And he went up to Jamestown. And did you happen to see who won in Jamestown?
For the late models, or
no? This guy actually won every race.
Oh, okay.
Hoosier Tire.
Oh, okay, I got
Hoosier Tire. I think their water truck broke, or there's a drought, or I'm not really sure, but it rubbered up. It was ridiculous. It rubbered up in every race. I talked to a handful of the late model guys. It was rubbered up in the heats. Nobody could pass anybody. Water, the frickin' racetrack. That place has the potential to be awesome, and it was an absolute disaster. I mean, it rubbered and rubbered and rubbered. There was no passing. Nobody can race. And they call this a special. The Jamestown Stampede is supposed to be one of the biggest. It's supposed to be the biggest special in North Dakota, and it's a joke. I mean, you gotta water that place. I watched because it was so late. They had a lot of cars, but when the races got done in Watertown, we jumped on. I actually went over to the first night. We went over to Stearns' trailer, and he threw it up on the TV, and we watched a late model feature in the pits well after the races were done in Watertown. And it's like, well, that was exciting. Everybody just kind of get in line and drive around the racetrack. It's like, I don't know. I don't understand what goes through these track prep crews' heads where they're so worried about the track being smooth that they forget to water it. There ain't nobody that wants to watch that garbage. Nobody. If they did, there'd be more NASCAR fans, right? And they might as well just blacktop the whole racetrack and just say, all right, everybody, we're going to have a paved track from now on out here in Jamestown. And there's a ton of other tracks that do the same crap. But all they got to do is jump online and type in Fairbury on YouTube and watch some of that. That's it. You do that, and you're going to be going, oh, wow, there are fans here. Because people want to watch that. They don't want to watch everybody get in line, drive around the track. Oh, this guy over here got out of the rubber to try to pass, and now 8 guys drove by him because it's one lane. Stupid. And I was so extremely disappointed with that because several of the guys that we got in the power rankings, everyone from Strand to Massengill, right? There's several people that were in Shaw's been in the power rankings. Nobody could pass anybody. It was just... If you passed, it was simply because the other people got out of line and then you stayed in line, or maybe slid them, whatever. But it was just extremely excruciating to watch. And I know you watched a little bit of the the mods and lates. What was your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, regarding the track, I mean, not track preparation, but this is the first time I ever watched a race there. That's a cool little track. I mean, the banking is kind of, I mean, it's different than any other track that I've seen. I mean, because you have the banking and there's no fence. So, I mean, you go over the top of the banking and you're out of the ball. Well, I mean, you're still within the ballpark, but you're off the track. So yeah, if that track was racy, that would be a fun. I mean, that could be like a Fairbury. I mean, because you have the banking, you have cars up high, cars down low. But yeah, I mean, it rubbered up, and the late models were the last class each night. So I mean, that the track was completely beat up by the time the late models got out there. And I mean, I was surprised to see Massengill there. How long of a drive is that for him to get out there?
6 hours, about 6 hours. Yeah. Yep. And they had some fans out there. Hats off to them. I don't know who they are. One of them, I think, is Pelkey, Jessa Pelkey, maybe, I think. And there's a few more that actually put together their own mini version of the Fans Fund. And they actually, if you hadn't raced there in 5 years, they covered your, I think, entry fees and maybe some fuel or whatever. And Massengill got that. Provenzino, I think, is it Chase Gelling? Chase Gelling got it. So there was a handful of drivers that they threw some money at to get them out there. So they did a great job promoting that deal. And that just makes me feel even worse because the place has so much potential to have good racing. I've been there. I've seen great racing at that place. But you can't leave the track that hard. Nobody wants to watch that. And you got to have it to where you can actually race. And I get it. There's 290 cars, but you can't start with it dry in race 2. That ain't going to get it done. When it's dry at the beginning of the night, you might as well just say, screw it. We're just going to cancel the show because it's going to be terrible. So, I mean, it's got to be a little greasy to start the night, and it just simply was not. And Ryan Michelson was actually at I-94 the week before, and I thought he about ripped the whole back half of his car off. I mean, he yard sailed into the fence, and he actually regrouped, got it back together, and he had as bad as the track was, they were kind of taking turns getting in and out of the rubber, but him and Strand did a really good race the first night. He got by Strand in lap traffic and actually won. In the second night, he got second. So Ryan Michelson, awesome job, man. It was good to see him. I didn't think he was going to be back. I thought he was done. But then I forgot, well, wait a sec. He's from Jamestown. And, so he lives in Alex now, but that's home to him. So he knows how to get around that place. I mean, he was awesome both nights. And I was kind of hoping that, nothing against Cole Schill, but I was kind of hoping that Ryan Michelson was going to double sweep that deal, especially after giving the One to Go show a little bit of a shout out in Victory Lane at I-94. That's like stardom right there. I thought that was pretty cool. So Strand, I think he ran second the first night, pulled off the second night. Massengill was pretty uneventful. Mitch Johnson drove Provenzino's second car, and he actually made the show both nights. The first night, they ran no B-mains. So if you didn't make it in from the heat, you were just done for the night. And they ran a feature. Yeah. That was my thought. I'm like, what are they doing? So I'd have to look who the other one was. Don Shaw was one of them. And there was another guy that was super fast that both of them, for whatever reason, maybe it was Robert, or I think they DNF'd the heat. But they DNF'd the heat. And they didn't even get a shot to race the feature or a B-main or anything to get in the feature. I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. So they just took, I think there was 33 or 34 late models, and the top 24 out of the heats went right into the feature, and everybody else got to watch. I'm like, wow. Yeah. So it's kind of some weird deals out there, but I guess all in all, in the late models, Ryan Michelson was the class of the field. Cole Schill did win the second day, and he won last year as well. So back-to-back years for the 44. I think Puka picked him. I think Puka actually picked Cole Schill to win that. So we'll have to tip of the cap there to Puka, even though he's not on here with us. But we still love you, man. And the mod racing, though, you actually mentioned that before we got on the show. That was probably the most interesting, exciting / whatever you want to call it of the night.
Yeah, and it was really just the last lap of one of the mod races. I mean, the rest of the race was pretty uneventful.
Not even last lap, like last 10 feet, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was the last 10 feet. I can't remember the car on the inside, but Casey
Sean
Arneson.
Strand.
Okay, yeah. Casey Arneson was on the outside, and they were coming to the checkered, and Strand just drifted high out of 4 and kept drifting and put Arneson into the wall, and Arneson got up on the wall, and then he went over the wall and rolled, had to be at least 3-4 times in the open area, and came to a rest kind of outside corner number 1. It was a nasty roll.
It was violent, and they gave the win to Sean Strand, I believe.
Yeah, I do believe they did do that.
So I'll put the clip on here, and fans, you make the call, right? So I put it on here. You guys take a look at it. Tell me what you think. But it was violent. I mean, and that took a long time, of course, to get things back together. But yeah, that was ugly. I believe he was okay. Nobody got hurt. But that was. And there was another incident. I think it was either the hobby stocks or the street stocks in the back straightaway where a guy dumped a guy, drove over him, rolled him over. I mean, that was a bad wreck. There was a few pretty interesting things there, but that comes down to when the track's one lane, you're racing for the same real estate, them kind of things are going to happen. So, hopefully they can do better next year. I'm just sick of seeing bone dry tracks. It can be dry at the end of the night. Just don't start with it dry. And that's where, let's talk about this for just a minute. You're a race fan. I've been a racer and a fan and on the promoter side. Do you, as a fan, if it's bone dry, one lane, I mean, the entertainment value, do you even enjoy watching it?
No, I don't. I mean, just as an example, this was several years, the track in Oshkosh, Sunnyview Speedway. It's no longer operating, but the World of Outlaw late models were there. And every time the late models had raced there in recent memory, it was a one lane, follow the leader race. And I actually debated, do I want to go to this, because it could just be a one lane track. But I thought, it's the World of Outlaws. They're only an hour away from my house. I got to go watch it. And it was a one lane, follow the leader. And I was sitting in the stands thinking I could have just stayed home and saved my $25 it cost to get in.
Well, the Labor Day shootout in Hibbing was that way for years. They'd race at 3 o'clock. It was bone dry about lap 3. Every other race, they're out there with the water truck, 8-hour program. And I talked to fans all over the region. They're like, no, we ain't going to Hibbing for Labor Day. You're going to sit there all day to watch the water truck. So that should tell you right there. Yeah, I get it. It's more work to put water in the racetrack. I get it, right? But that's what the fans want to see. But now on the driver's side of things, if it's a little bit too muddy or if there's a little bit of a cushion or whatever, the drivers are all going, oh, man, the track's too fast. It's hard on equipment and this and that. And it costs too much money. And we're talking this weekend, I think it costs more money to race on dry than it does to race on sticky. Because number one, to race on dry and to be fast, you got to have a lot of money into your shocks, a lot of money into your car. You're going to go through more tires. Yeah, it doesn't wear on the engine as much, but you got to have some traction. When the track is sticky, you can get away with a little bit older car because the track's sticky. You just need to have it balanced and be able to rotate. You don't need as much traction when the track's sticky. You don't need a ton of traction to be fast on a cushion. You don't need a bunch of traction to be fast on the bottom. So it's actually easier on equipment. I don't know if it's easier on equipment, but it's easier on the pocketbook. The reason it's harder on the pocketbook is because the cars are going faster, sliding, more action, more happens. But it's the entertainment industry, okay? Now, none of us want a swamp. We don't want it to be muddy. We don't want it to be greasy to where, like, nobody can pass in one lane of heavy. But at the end of the day, if there can be a good cushion, a good bottom, a little traction here, a little traction there, some patches of traction throughout, that provides the best racing. That should be the goal. And sometimes I wonder if these track prep crews, if they even ever watch a race other than the track that they're doing. Because if they did, you'd think they'd be looking and go, man, I wish our track was like that. What do I got to do? Well, I'm going to talk to them to see what they do and try to do that. That's how racers get faster. Racers are like, man, that guy's kicking our ass. What is he doing? And they try to do a little digging to figure out what he's doing. Well, if there's a track out there providing better racing, side by side, 3 lanes of racing, why don't you talk to their track prep crew and say, what are you doing? And that's the difference between Devil's Lake, which is an hour from Jamestown, okay? Which, for the life of me, I don't understand why they don't get any cars at Devil's Lake. On a regular night, their car count is low. I don't get it. Because I've watched races there. Good top, good bottom. There's traction. I've seen Diamond, crossover. Nolan does an awesome job. That place is racy. I mean, I remember a late model race. Strand got put to the back, 24th to 2nd. Well, that means you had a good racetrack. That's what that means. Yep. That ain't happening at Jamestown, ever. So, like, if I lived in between there, I would always go to Devil's Lake. Like, I would not go to Jamestown. I'd go to Devil's Lake because you can actually race. And, I don't think Nolan's probably going to give them any tips because he's kind of hoping them cars will come his way. But why don't they just pay attention a little bit and provide a better racing surface? That's just my thoughts. But, with that said, I guess next, was there anything else this weekend? You actually, during the deal at Casino, I think you actually mentioned you were watching the races and you're like, okay, Puka's limited late models are driving me insane, so I'm going to switch gears here. What did you end up watching instead?
Yeah, I went to Flow Racing because they were broadcasting the Fall Invitational at 141 Speedway, which is in eastern Wisconsin. I know who those drivers are, so I decided, I'll watch this for a while. And they actually had some really good racing at 141 Speedway. Benji Lacrosse, who's better known as a modified driver, he won the IMCA stock car feature both nights, both Friday and Saturday night. Driver we've talked about a lot on this show, well, especially last week, Mike Mullen. Oh, I should add that Mike Mullen, I shared our show with him, and he sent me a message answering some of the questions that you guys had about him. He is 33 years old. His late model is WISSOTA legal, but he said he will not be in Ashland because he's taking his family to Disneyland.
It'd be warmer at Disneyland by a long shot. So, again, if Mama's happy, everybody's happy. I get it. But now knowing that he's got a WISSOTA engine, I might be in touch with him because I want to get him over our way for something. So we'll have to work on that. He's a fun guy to watch. So
yeah, I mean, Mike Mullen was racing in the modified IMCA modified division at 141 Speedway. He had to go through the B main on Friday night. He finished second in the feature. Saturday night, he started kind of deep in the field too. I was kind of surprised, and he finished second in that feature too. He knows that track really well. I mean, he's won the 10,000 to win Clash at the Creek twice there. And Marcus Yari won the IMCA modified feature on Saturday night. It was a good victory for him because he's a Shawano Speedway regular. And, Shawano is a big half mile, and 141 Speedway is a small egg-shaped track. So I know I've interviewed him in the past, and, he's struggled at 141 Speedway in the past sometimes. So when he would qualify for the Clash at the Creek, he'd be really happy. So for him to get a win at their year-end special, that was good to see. There was a lot of body slamming in some of the races. One guy in the modified division, I'm not sure what the one I didn't even catch the number that did it, but I mean,
was that 37? Did my buddy Kelly Esty make it over there?
No.
Or was it 45? No. Broken? No. All right. I'm just trying to figure out who he body slamming. Love you guys.
And I mean, he just completely body slammed and put the driver right into the wall. And I mean, the driver got out of the car and he was not happy. So it might be a good thing we're coming to close to the end of the year in some instances. Anyway, I was saying that 141 Speedway is a track that usually does get really dry, but it's usually pretty racy even though it's dry. So, there's a different, you can still have a dry track and have it be racy, but yeah, when a track is dry and it's only one lane, then it's no fun.
Right. And starting dry at the beginning of the night, that's the issue, right? Some of these, so I was in Ferguson, and again, I had a great time there, and whatever. Okay, and the features were pretty good. But that track is so rock hard that when they farm it, they only go about that deep. And in their mind, they're like, well, that's what you got to do. And it's like, I'm a racer. I can tell you that definitely is not what you want to do, but whatever. And when they were out there, I'm not kidding you, their idea of farming the track was driving around with a sheep's foot and then watering it. I'm like, dude, the sheep's foot makes the track harder. Like, what are you doing? That doesn't, like, farm it. And it's like they just don't understand. It makes no sense to me how they cannot really understand what the equipment they're using actually does. And so I would not want to be a track prep guy, but I can tell you this. You're better off starting with it a little too wet than starting with it too dry. Because if it's too dry, it creates dust. Dust pisses everybody off. And at the end of the day, if you have no fans in the grandstands, it don't matter what the track's like because you can't pay the bills and keep the place going. So sticky has to be sticky to begin the night. It can be dry at the end, but not dry at the beginning. So,
well, I mean, you talk about attendance. How often have you heard fans and maybe even promoters say, boy, if only we could go back to the heyday of the 70s and the 80s. But then you look back at the photos from that era and you look at what the track was soup before the racing actually started.
We used to go to Cedar Lake now people are like, oh, Cedar Lake's a dust bowl, it's dirty, it's marmalade, it ain't the same. I remember going to Cedar Lake and we would all pack the track before the races started. It was muddy. There was people, I talked to Kevin Ayotte, he would actually have a packing vehicle that he would leave right at the racetrack. He's like, because you had to pack, he had his number on it, that counted because he got to pack, he left it right at the track. And he'd be like, I packed more laps than anybody else. I didn't get my car dirty or whatever, but I had a car out there packing with racing tires on it. And I talked to Ron Anderson over at Dirt Track Supply. He's like, I haven't sold a mud scraper in like 10 years, and that's the thing. It's like, put some water on the track. Again, too muddy ain't good, but you got to have some traction because that provides more entertainment value for everybody. It just is what it is. So,
right. I mean, when I started in MJ McBride's pit crew back in 1990, that was one of my jobs, was to scrape the mud off the car. And like you said, back then, you had to pack the track before the racing started. And I mean, and Shawano usually had it pretty wet, so it usually got quite a bit of mud. So I had to do quite a bit of scraping.
But that was good because you had kids around. It's like, you don't even need the kids around now. We do need the kids around, but back then they could scrape mud, they could do all them things. And, I'm just praying that some tracks get back to that because that's what it needs. We need more excitement. Tacky tracks provides more excitement. It's better for everybody. So with that said, Bert, are you going racing anywhere this week?
No, I am not going racing, but I mean, this week is Dirt King's final race of the year. They'll be they're scheduled to race at Wilmot Speedway down just south of Milwaukee. So we'll see. I should have looked at the point standings before I came here. I do believe Justin Ritchie is leading the point standings right now. So no matter who wins, it'll be a new champion. It'll be the first time that Nick Avalink has not won that series. So
and Nick Avalink's going the other direction. So that's where I'm actually going. I'm actually going up to the ABC Raceway in Ashland, Wisconsin for the Red Clay Classic. I believe it's the 45th annual Red Clay Classic. And they're going to have 4 classes of cars up there. They'll have Wasota late models, modifieds, my favorite class, the Super Stocks, and the Midwest mods. And last year's winners, Jesse Glanz, the X Factor, put on a hell of a show. He slid by Derek Vessel. Oh, Derek, I know you're listening. You gave that one away. Don't do that again. He led that whole deal. He missed the rubber with like 1 or 2 to go. Slid up the track. He fell back to 3rd. And he's like, and the fact is he had it won. He should have won that deal. So Jesse Glanz, he won it last year. The modified Dave Kane, he's actually won 2 of the last 3. Kurt Myers won the Supers, and Kevin Buzzy Adams, he won in the Midwest Mods. Now, Buzzy's not going. I asked him, I said, Buzz, you're going to bring the late model? He goes, nope. He goes, we've been done since August. He goes, the kid is racing he's racing money shows. I think he's won like $5,000 or something like that in the last 30 days or whatever. He's won some money shows. So he's going to go with his kid go-kart racing. Buzzy's like, I'm done. My kid gets old enough. He's in a B-mod. He goes, I'm going to be a car owner, a pit guy, a fan. He goes, I'm done. And so he's more excited about family. He's more excited about his kids racing than he is him, which is hard for me because he's one of my favorite guys to watch go around a racetrack. But he's not going to be up there. And that's going to be on Dirt Race Central. I'm going to be up there, but that's going to be on Dirt Race Central, watchdrc.tv, Friday and Saturday night. And who's your pick for the late models up there? Pretty much all the western Wisconsin. There'll be a bunch from like the Twin Ports area. Most of them guys are going to be up there. I'm going to let you fire off first. Who do you got?
I always hate picking all the favorites all the time, but I mean, I'll pick Jesse Glenn's.
Right here. Massengill started 12th at the Prelude to the Clay, drove by Jimmy Mars to win that deal, coming off a 4. He's been really good. I can't even count what he did in Jamestown. He's been really good all year long. Jamestown was that don't even count as a race to me because it was just a rubbered up piece of crap. But if you're good in Hibbing, if you're good on a slow dry track, I expect him to be good. So I'm picking Jeffrey Massengill. And the other classes we'll get into, there's going to be some great racing. That place has a ton of people. One thing I'm excited about with Ashland is the bars are back open. Not that I'm a drinker. I'm not a drinker at all. But the fact of the matter is that place, they bring a lot of people into the community. They were really scared with COVID. The county tried shutting everything down. Everything's opened back up. The attorneys got involved with that deal, and they said, look, the county can't just shut everything down like that. That's ridiculous. So that's all open back up, so it's back to somewhat normal. So I'm excited. Now it's going to be cold. They're gonna dress really warm. It's supposed to be like lows in the low 30s Friday.
I believe that.
And I may be that guy that I'll have it on Dirt Race Central for sure. So I might be that guy that says, you know what, this is enough of this watching it in the grandstands deal. I very well might just go sit in the camper and watch it and go visit with people after and kind of go back and forth. You just never know because I don't need to sit out for that many hours in the cold. I'm not interested in doing that. Another thing coming up, Madtown Showdown over in Madison, Minnesota. They got a doubleheader. That's also on Dirt Race Central. No late models at that one, but they have plenty of classes of cars, including Puca's limited late models, my super stocks, and they have modifieds. So that brings us to the last lap. The last lap, of course, here tonight, brought to you by our friends over at Zuli's Racing Engines, and they build some great power. In fact, one of the guys I'll talk about in a second that might be one of the favorites to win over at Madison, Justin Vogel, former national champion. I talked to him at I-94, said he had a new power plant from Zuli under the hood, and that thing was fast. And, they build a lot of engines, especially over in kind of western Minnesota. So if you're in the market, if you're needing to buy an engine, switch up your engine program, give Frank a call over there. They do a heck of a good job. A lot of people with their stuff winning races. And if you don't believe me, call Justin Vogel. That guy's won a ton of races in the street stocks. He'll let you know he's been very happy with his stuff. So the last lap here, again, Ashland opening up, Red Clay Classic, going to be cold, bars open. It's going to be fun. They actually have a pretty neat deal, a bridesmaid deal. Happens over at the Neighborly Bar. I don't know if that's happening. I don't know what's all going on. But they actually raise money for that deal, and whoever gets second place gets some bonus money, but they got to wear a dress in Victory Lane. So that's pretty cool. Now, I've never had to be that guy wearing the dress in Victory Lane, but it's pretty darn funny. I saw Kevin Burdick doing it one time, so I got a pretty good chuckle out of that. Another thing is Don O'Neill. What did you see with Don O'Neill here this past week?
Well, he is going to be jumping into the Masters Built house car. And you had actually sent me that information, and I replied back to you. I'm not surprised at all by that. I mean, that's actually probably a good move for Masters Built to do this. I mean, O'Neill has experience racing different chassis, so he may be able to provide better input than what Hudson could, because, I mean, Hudson maybe only drove one chassis in his life, where, with Don O'Neill, with his experience, he may be able to provide better feedback to get that program up and running if they truly do want to get back on the national stage.
Yeah, I agree. I agree totally. He's, all that experience pays off, and things have changed. Don O'Neill hasn't been a real factor here now for several years, but he still knows how to drive a race car. He can still communicate. Masters built, the technology changes so fast that the best thing that they can do is try to figure out what the other guys are doing. And Don O'Neill's that guy that he's not afraid to do that. He might be that guy digging for some information. So it'll be interesting to see. He actually made the show. I don't know how he did Saturday, but Friday I know he made the show. Did you see if he made the show on Saturday?
I did not. I know I saw him in the race, but yeah, I don't know if it was Friday or Saturday's feature I was watching.
Did you hear about Darrel Lanigan this week?
No, I did not.
Yeah, it wasn't the World of Outlaw show. It was like the Wednesday or Thursday show, wherever they were on Thursday prior to the World of Outlaw. Beginning of the night, he got kicked out for the whole night. And I don't have all the details for that deal. And I tried to get it. My buddy Jeff, our late model expert, tried to get that for us as well. And what he got out of it is something happened, and then his pit crew was over on the scales in the face of another driver. Rumor has it one of the pit guys punched the driver. They were smashing on the deck tin. So he got kicked out for the whole night because of his pit crew. So put a leash on your pit crew members because some tracks will kick you out if your pit guys are getting out of hand. I may have had a couple pit guys get out of hand just a little bit, but probably not as much as I did. So I was usually the guy in charge of that. Now, we talked last week about we'll end with this the crown jewels. Who won the most and so on and so forth. And my buddy Jeff, who's our late model statistician, so to speak, he actually did a little digging for us. And do you have that in front of you?
Yes.
Yeah, so we talked about T-Mac. T-Mac has 3, and what we consider a crown jewel is, it's got to be at least 20, right? But typically 30. Well, he won the Stream, the North-South. Both of those were $50,000 to win, and he won the I-80 Nationals for 30. So he's the only driver you talked about. Could he be in the running for Driver of the Year? Well, he's the only guy out there that's won 3 of the big ones. 3, okay? So that's interesting. Now, second place, Overton, of course, won the Silver Dollar Nationals, 53, and the USA Nationals. T-Mac wasn't at the USA Nationals.
Correct.
So could he have 4? He's faster.
And he has won the USA Nationals in the past.
Right. So, yeah, so you look at that, and then you have Davenport. He won the Intercontinental. That was also a gift wrap put in a nice little pretty bow by Kyle Strickler there.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Owens, as good of a season as he has, he won the Topless for $40K.
Yeah, that one surprised me that he only has one victory that pays that much. Otherwise, his other victories are in the $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 range.
Yep, Dillard, he has that. You talked about it earlier, the Firecracker up at Lernerville for 30. And then you have Peyton Looney won the Show Me. Winger won one night at Cedar Lake for $20,000. Ricky Thornton Jr. won the Double Down at Jackson for $20,000. Bishop won at Cedar Lake for $20,000. Interesting to me, and I believe this must be accurate, but Bishop doesn't have any wins of over $20,000. That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
So we might have to check into that a little further, but Jeff did some pretty good research. I want to thank him for that. But that's pretty interesting to see. He's ran well at them, but he just them 30, 40, 50 granders, he just seems to be coming up short. So, I know that there's a couple coming up. They got what's the $100,000 to win the Lucas Oil race? I know that we have did you see who's registered for that one?
No, I haven't seen who's registered for that one.
Give you a clue. He's not number 5. He's not number 7, but he's somewhere in between there.
Oh, Larson.
So that's at Port, isn't that at Portsmouth or something like that? Portsmouth?
Yes, I believe so.
That one's $100,000. And looks like Kyle Larson is registered for that show. So that one's going to be good. That's coming up. That's right around the corner here. But it'll be interesting to see if one of these guys that we mentioned takes home another crown jewel. Last year, kind of the guy that owned it was Madden. He owned the crown jewels last year. He made a ton of money. Could T-Mac win another one? Will Kyle Larson shock the world and win that? I'm going to say probably not. Can Bishop get over the hump? We'll talk about that when we get a little bit closer.
I'm pulling up Bishop's schedule to see his wins.
Yeah, I think he must be leading right now the win count of everybody.
Well, because on his page he has the results for every race he's been in and how much it was to win each race. So
okay.
5,000, 5,000, 15,000, 5, 7, 12, 7, 10, 6, 10, 10, 6, 20, 10, 10, 10, 10, 53.
53, where do you win that one at?
Says I-80 Speedway on July 25th, Silver Nationals.
Okay, July 25th, Bishop won that. So we have Overton. We have Overton down here, but that must not be right. So obviously Bishop won the Silver Dollar National, so that means that Overton won one. Did Overton win one down there also? Was there two?
I'm not sure because it's yes, no, because they have
only one that was 53,000.
Only one that was 50 because the 24th was preliminary night, and then 53,000 on July 25th.
Okay.
And according to Bishop's website, it says he won that one.
Well, he wouldn't have it on there at the beginning. You wouldn't think, but so there you go. So that brings us down to Overton, Bishop, Davenport, Owens, Dillard, all winning one, right?
And
so Overton's not even at two. So that's according to that, if that's accurate, that means that T-Mac has three, and nobody else even has two, except Bishop has a 20 grand deal at Cedar Lake, but that's still not, that's not over 30.
Right.
Yep. So interesting. So that'll be fun to see. It's kind of cool to see when the cream rises to the top who comes to play. And, as far as WISSOTA goes, this event coming up, the Red Clay Classic, is one of the best paying invitationals in all of WISSOTA. It's just too bad that it's like in the beginning of October. It's so dang cold outside.
Yeah. I've never been there, but I know Tom Nayart, he's a driver from Shawano, and he used to go up there almost every year. And he said that he remembers one year he was driving up there and it was snowing out. And
I've been there. I've been there when it was snowing. I remember Rich Bishop. He was a legend in the Super Stocks back in the day. And I remember him cruising around the high side to win the Red Clay Classic as it was snowing out. It's like, my goodness. So we'll end it with this, with a checklist, okay? Ryan's official checklist for the Red Clay Classic, okay? Number one, want yourself a hoodie, okay? You're up in Minnesota, Wisconsin, you wear hoodies. That's what you do. So you get a hoodie. You need a warm hat. You need some gloves. You need a jacket, right? Rubber boots. It's supposed to rain Wednesday and Thursday. So as far as watering the track, Mother Nature is going to do that for them. When the Red Clay Classic has rain beforehand, it is a disaster in the pit area. It will take you 3 weeks to clean your hauler. Rubber boots. Bring rubber boots. Hay. Bring some hay to lay down in the pits, right? Bring some carpet. If you're racing, get a big roll of carpet, lay it out where your car's going to be so that you're on carpet and not in mud. You're going to also want carpet in front of the hauler. Leave your shoes outside. That red clay is nasty, okay? Red Clay Classic, you got to bring yourself some wood because you're going to have a bonfire. It's like a prerequisite. You can't go to the Red Clay Classic without a bonfire. You got to have some heat to warm up. You got to bring some apple pie, right? Or some schnapps or something like that to kind of have a little nip to warm yourself up. That's just part of the Red Clay Classic. So bring all that stuff, dress warm. I'm telling you, dress warm, bring rubber boots, bring some carpet, bring some stuff to lay down. I've seen people, bring sheets of plywood and they lay it out kind of like a pit stall, and they actually lay plywood out and the car's like sitting on top of the plywood so that way your spot's not muddy. But just plan on that, because Wednesday and Thursday, and pay close attention to the scales, racers. Get a hold of somebody that because the scales, as you know, on the way to Ashland, they don't like race car drivers. They will pull you over. I remember Kurt Myers coming to the Red Clay Classic, and wham, he got fined and he won, but his fines were more than his Red Clay Classic winnings, okay? So just kind of keep that in the loop. So that's the prerequisites there for the Red Clay Classic. I'm going to be up there, of course, with Dirt Race Central. They're going to be carrying all the action live, and it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. We're going to interview a few drivers up there, and Bert, you'll have to check that Red Clay Classic out, because there's some good racers. You can watch that online. Yeah,
I will probably watch it from my recliner.
Yeah, hot chocolate and some popcorn, and have a hell of a lot of fun. So with that said, that's the show for this week. Only a couple real races, left here in the Dakota season. We got the dirt teams coming up, and that's going to be their season finale. It'll be interesting to see who's crowned champion there. And then it's just kind of one show. Then we're into just open stuff the rest of the way out for the rest of the year, and we'll have to start figuring out driver of the year, track of the year, special of the year, move of the year. We're going to have a special show coming up for you guys down the road. So with that said, Bert, hey, pleasure chatting with you, talking some racing.
Same here.
And we'll talk soon. We'll be back at you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in. As Puka would say, be your dream. We miss the guy. We miss you. We're looking forward to having you back. But be your dream. Stay tuned to the One to Go show.